talk about seating depth. Now, I've done a number of videos in the past showing, how to do a seating depth test, and I still stand behind the general principle of doing a seating depth test. I have no reason to believe that it can't or doesn't work for people, and it definitely is one of the keys to producing accurate ammo. But there have been more and more reports of bigger, wider, more generous nodes for seating depth at much deeper seating depth distances. So traditionally, we'll just use 284 and even the new, the PRC that I'm using. Most people tend to stay somewhere in the 10 to 30 thousandths seating depth range. And you'll often hear people say, well, 180s like to be jumped, 17 thousandths or 24 thousandths. And I think depending on the load, that's definitely true. But you do find that the nodes can be fairly narrow. We'll say maybe 6 thousandths, give or take, before you might see them kind of fall off one way or the other. You might get lucky, have a powder combination that really gets you a wider node from there. But what if there was a node that was 30, 40, 50 thousandths wide? Wouldn't that be ideal? Because then you would never have to worry about throat erosion. You would have a stable load no matter where you went. It would really sort of eliminate this notion of chasing any kinds of lands, which, to be honest, I haven't done in years. So what have I done? Well, I tried to keep it simple. The first thing is starting with a load that I know shoots, and that's really the basis of any good testing. Now, this is my ammo that is left over from Southwest Nationals 2 weeks ago. I know that it shoots well because I shot some great scores while I was there. I also know that last week I had some other that was left over, and it shot great here. I shot a 210 or something like that, 209 at 600 yards. It grouped well. So I know that it is a good load to start with, and since all of this is the same, I thought, what the heck? So I've got my 5 sighters. This is just going to help to get me zeroed up on the target, and then I'm going to take 20 rounds and shoot the same point of aim no matter what. I'm not going to be accounting for wind or elevation or anything like that. We're just going to take 20 shots and go from there. This is the first round. This one matches the 5 sighters. And then I've gone 5 thousandths deeper on my arbor die. So I'm just using an arbor press here to seat this because it's faster and easier. So I go 5 thousandths, 5 thousandths, 5 thousandths, and we just worked our way down. I recorded each one because it's not always going to be exactly 5 thousandths. So I have all 20 rounds written down so that I can correlate them on target later. And if you look, I know it's hard to see on the camera here, but you can see these are the longer and these are the shorter. And I think it becomes even more apparent if I hold the longest and the shortest up against each other. You can see there's quite a difference between them. If I look on paper, you can see my longest one is 2.3145. and my shortest is 2.222. So that's a pretty considerable difference in terms of the jump. And some of you might be asking, well, are any of this a compressed load or anything like that? I can tell you, even on these, because of the load that I'm using, this is not a compressed load. I can still feel and shake powder in here. I also don't have donuts in these. The donuts have been pushed out, so the bullets are not engaging donuts in any way. So those are some of the important facts before we get started. Now, this is not going to be a change the world test. Obviously, it's only 20 rounds. It's one day. Conditions are, at least right now, very, very mild, if zero. I shoot in a couple hours. Hopefully it stays this way because it would be great to do this test with next to no wind. But whatever the test is, we're going to do it. So I'm going to head out to the range here. We're going to go have some fun. I will report the target back and show you all exactly what happened from shot 1 to shot 20. And maybe we'll be surprised, maybe we won't. Make your own conclusions. Here comes the target right now. How the test ended up going. You can see shot 1 here, so this would be the longest or the closest to the lands, and then each subsequent shot as it goes along. Now, I think the biggest takeaway here that you need to look at is the fact that out of 20 shots and 100 thousandths difference in seeding, I still maintained a group of 4.3 and shot a 215, all while aiming dead center. Now, really good conditions, virtually no wind or anything. So I mean, this windage is not to be surprising. But even some of these high shots, for shooting a roughly 3/4 minute group with 100 thousandths difference in seating depth from shortest to longest, I think this really should help open some eyes that seating depth may not necessarily be as important as has previously been thought. But it's not to say seating depth doesn't have a purpose. There is obviously still trends. You can still see here, like shots 9, 10, and 11 back here behind 19 here. So 9, 10, 11, kind of showing a trend. And keep in mind, that's 15 thousandths difference here, so that would be kind of like a node potentially. You can see, what did we have? 3, 4, 5, 6, all kind of trend together. And within a vertical here, even 7 is kind of in there. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 would still be a sub half minute node, which, that's 25 thousandths, 30 thousandths almost, depending on how you look at the windows. So, you still want to make sure that you're testing seating depths. The idea here is just to understand that it may not have as much relevance as you might be putting onto it, but it's still important to take a look at. It's still important to do testing, but just know that, depending on the cartridge, depending on the bullet, the brand, your powder, different things like that, you could have really, really wide seating depth nodes that you may not have, thought to previously test out. So, again, one test. I realize this is not the be all end all of tests, but hopefully this helps, you know, maybe take some pressure off of people who have put a lot of pressure onto their seating depth tests. And look, I was one of those people in the past, and this is something that, uh, I've played with in the past. Like I said, it's something that, um, I have been comfortable with at other times. But, it's really something I'm trying to put more emphasis on, especially as more and more people, do testing and help validate that it is, in fact, a real phenomenon. So go out there, have some fun, play with this if you want to, and, we'll talk later. You guys have a good one.